This episode is brought to you by Mint Mobile. Gift yourself insane savings this holiday season with Mint Mobile. Right now, when you buy any 3-month plan, you'll get another 3 months for free. Just go to mintmobile.com/TFS. New customers only. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. Hello and welcome to Talk from Superheroes. Hey everybody, I'm Andrew Ivamy.
And I'm Diana McCullum.
And you're listening to Talk from Superheroes, where every week we discuss a piece of heroic television or film. And this week on the podcast, we are talking about Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom.
The Lost Kingdom, is that referring to its stuff in the movie or the DCEU itself?
Hey-o.
Coming in hot. That's off the top of my head. I didn't have that ready.
You didn't have that ready?
No, I'm pretty okay with this.
You've been like...
For
weeks you've been prepping that stand-up work. You've been prepping that stand-up
I've
set.
been trying to get a tight 5. And unfortunately, it's an hour-long podcast.
Okay.
So I hope you're all not expecting this kind of heat for the next hour.
You can't do it throughout the whole thing.
I can't do it for the whole hour. I mean, you talk for half the time.
That's true. That's why I'll bear some of the burden. But strong jokes off the top. The DCEU is the Lost Kingdom. I love it. I love it. Love the humor coming in right away.
Meta commentary, you guys.
It's a meta title. But yes, we're talking about Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom this week, the second Aquaman film.
Yeah, you could call it Aquaman 2. I probably will.
Yeah,
I'm probably gonna in the future.
Oh, wait a minute. I think none of the DCEU movies have had a numbered title.
I mean, yeah, because it's Wonder Woman 84. And
which I guess is a number, but not a, you know what I mean.
I know what I mean, it's not the 1900th and 84th.
And I think Shazam 2 was Shazam Fury of the Gods.
Yeah, no,
they haven't done a single numbered title.
I mean, MCU also lost numbers after Iron Man. Iron Man's the only one using
Iron Man
numbers.
did the numbers, yeah. Well, either way, we're talking about Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom today, the new movie that is out in theaters, the final film of the DCEU.
R.I.P., you were fine.
R.I.P., you were here. You were here for a short time. Not a long. You were here for a medium time, not a long time. And we're going to be talking about it this week. It's a new film, and whenever we talk about something new, we are going to give you a spoiler-free review. So in case you're on the fence about seeing it or whatever your reason might be, we'll give you a spoiler-free review. Then, once you hear the theme music, that's when we will enter our spoiler-filled section of the podcast. So to start with the spoiler-free review, we'll start with the usual, the simple question. Diana, did you like it?
I liked it fine. It's not good, but it's not bad. It is kind of the absolute epitome of fine, yeah. How would I describe this movie? It's weird. It's like all the actors are good, but no one gets a scene to act in. Which is kind of a weird thing that I've rarely seen in a movie. I'm like, oh, we're just gonna move along and no one's actually gonna have a scene right now. Everything underwater is terrible. Everything on land is actually pretty good. There's some fun bantery stuff. The fights underwater are bad. The fights on land are good. This is going to be a theme throughout the episode, so I hope you don't get tired of hearing about how I feel about this dichotomy of land versus water. And yeah, it's like a straightforward storyline. It's fun enough, but it's also like nothing that was bad was so bad that I was like, ugh, get me out of here. But nothing is good enough that I was like, woo, that's really good. So it's an absolutely fine movie. Jason Momoa's Momoing around, and that alone will coast you pretty far. So that's how I feel about Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Aquaman 2, if you're lazy like me. Andrew, did you like it?
I'm a little bit higher than you. I think it's a fine to good. I agree that no one's capital A acting in this movie.
No Patrick Stewart acting.
But I will say everyone is having a more charming, fun time than the first movie. It does feel like it's like everyone's having fun being here. Everyone's doing a really playful job. It seems like it was it's just charming. It's just charming. Everyone is far more charming. It's a much more passable story. It moves at a good clip. I'm having a pretty good time. I agree with you that the land stuff works and looks a lot better than the underwater stuff, which is a shame when your movie is called Aquaman and it is about an aquatic man. You kind of want the underwater stuff to look good, but it just doesn't. So I agree with you in that regard. But this is, I think it's charming. I think it's playful. I think it's fun. I think this is a pretty good popcorn movie. I do think that it has almost like no rewatchability. Like we are recording this the day after we saw it, and I'm going to say that by this time tomorrow, I will have forgotten every element of this film. Nothing about it sticks to your ribs. Like there's nothing about it that it's like, ooh, that was a really amazing element that I wish other movies did or that you zoned in on. But nothing about it was offensive. It really is just kind of like a wash of a popcorn movie, but it does a pretty good job of it, and everyone's pretty charming while it happens.
Yeah, I'm not going to fight you too hard on any of those points, although it's interesting to think about how a movie's not rewatchable if you don't remember it at all. Because that feels like it would make it very rewatchable.
I see what you're saying.
Like a 50 First Dates kind of like, I haven't experienced this movie yet.
Yeah, not quite in that fun way, but I like where your head's at. To be like, yeah, I could watch this movie every day and it's new again.
Yeah, Goldfish Memory.
Yeah.
Aquaman.
Yeah.
We all get it.
So I see what you're saying. It doesn't quite have that charm and appeal.
No, I think that was kind of exactly the problem with the first one. Because I remember like, we didn't really like the first one that much, and we would talk to people who were like, no, it was great. And we'd be like, what was your favorite part? And their faces were just kind of blank.
Who's your favorite character? And
other than Aquaman.
And maybe they would say Black Manta, but other than that, it would be like, what was your favorite setting? Blank faces.
Mm-hmm. What was your favorite joke? What was your favorite action sequence?
Yeah.
Blank, blank, blank.
And I think that this movie is more of that, but it's charming along the way.
It is a little bit more charming along the way.
And I like that. I think that they kind of leaned into it and had a bit more fun while doing it than the previous movie did.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Yeah. And can it be spoiled?
I'm gonna say no. Yeah, when it's the last one and everyone knew it was the last one, there's not a lot to spoil.
Yeah.
This is the end of the DCEU. It absolutely knew it.
And that makes it sound like at the end of the movie the Earth explodes or something. It's not as ominous.
Superman waves goodbye.
Yeah. It looks right down the camera and says, "That's all, folks." That was. It's not as ominous or goofy as Diana makes it sound. But yeah, it's like it's the end of everything. So there's no next thing that we can spoil. There's no like, oh, this is building up to. It's just there's no next thing to be spoiled.
Henry Cavill didn't show up a second time.
Yeah, and I also think it can't be spoiled because it is the most paint by numbers that an action movie can be. And it does a fine job, which we'll get more into about it. But it is, imagine any action movie, popcorn movie you've ever seen in your life. A bad guy gets a thing that's bad, which they are going to use to do a bad thing. And the hero's like, don't, and then has to go stop them. That's the entire plot. There's nothing that can be spoiled here. It is just a very surface level film.
It is. I will say, I'll explain this more after the spoiler-free review. I will actually say it's like a superhero movie, kind of meets a James Bond movie, and I will tell you why after we listen to the theme music.
I can agree with that. I wonder if it'll be for the same reason. But yeah, I kind of agree with that. I think that that's what they were intending to go for.
Oh, well, let's see what our reasons are for this.
All right. Well,
after the music.
There we go.
Stick around.
Let's get into the spoiler-filled section of the podcast. Let's talk more about Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. All right, let's get into the spoiler-filled section talking about Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. So you think it's like a James Bond movie in what regard?
My biggest regard that I think that it's like a James Bond movie is what I like that this movie does that you just don't see anymore is I really like Black Manta's lair inside a volcano with a submarine.
Yeah.
That is so... It's weird that that's a James Bondy vibe to me because that feels very like superhero-y. But at the same time, I'm like, I feel like all the volcano lairs I've seen have been James Bond villains.
Yeah.
And Dr. Evil from Austin Powers.
Which is a James Bond parody. I agree with you. Lair in a volcano is a big one. I also think it's a James Bond style just in terms of like they're trying to go for this globe-trotting exotic locale track down of information to be like, we're in the jungle, we're in Antarctica, we're in the fish market or whatever, but because they go to silly locations because it's Aquaman, but that level of like we're going for an around the world experience is what they're going for.
Okay, we're in the Arctic, we're on the volcano, we're at the pirate lair. We're at the lighthouse. He can travel really quickly via swimming. And so he can have a a surprisingly globe-trotting adventure, globe-swimming adventure.
So, not bad.
Not
Yeah,
bad.
that's how I think it's a James Bondy, but yes, also definitely the volcano lair.
Which I think really taps into the very popcorn nature of this. Like, when is the last time we just saw a silly movie that had a volcano lair?
It's been a while.
It's been a minute. It might have been Austin Powers.
Yeah.
I might be right on the nail on that. I'd have to look into it. I don't have a list of layers in
We don't
front
have
of
the
me.
stats. We don't have the advanced analytics in front of us right now.
But it was the most like comic booky thing I've seen in a comic book movie in a long time.
And I even think just like the aesthetic of the volcano lair, aside from it being a volcano lair, aside from like that sentence itself being so comic booky, just like the design of these like octopus ships, these like bubble dome steampunk neo-futurist thing, these like Black Manta's just general over-the-top comic booky look, which I think serves. I think it's fucking great. I love this big idiot head on this bot. It works way better in this one than it did in the first movie, because in this one it's like everything around him feels comic book. Like he is in a volcano lair and he shoots lasers out of his big dumb dome eyes.
Oh my god, he is the shark that shoots lasers out of his head.
Holy shit, he is.
Oh my god.
And it's fun and it works with sharks with laser beams.
He's it.
This is it. This is a Dr. Evil movie done seriously.
Done seriously. They meshed the fun things into the villain. But you're totally right, because like the first one, I don't think he was the main bad guy. No,
it was
Ocean Master
Orm was the main bad guy.
He was just kind of around in the first one. But in the first one, it was just him and his dad, as far as I can remember.
Yeah.
And then in this movie, suddenly he's like, I have like 50 henchmen who would die for me, and they all wear their little swimsuit uniforms that you have to wear in my volcano lair. But he's not laying down these rules. It's just like, we're like, well, yeah, you got to wear your swimsuit uniform in the volcano lair.
Yeah, everyone in this James Bond base wears a matching uniform at all times that looks like it is simultaneously from the future and the past. And that just makes sense, and no one addresses it, and you don't need to get into it. Like, at one point I noticed Randall Park's scuba suit buttons up, which makes no fucking sense.
That's not how scuba suits
You
work.
can't button up.
The water gets through.
So it's this like, it does not make sense, and they don't give one shit, and it looks good. And I'm just like, yes, of course, this idiotic domed non-functional scuba suit has like petticoat buttons, big buttons. It's double-breasted. It's a double-breasted scuba suit.
But Randall Park feels like he would have that character does feel like he would have a double-breasted scuba suit.
So it's comic booky, it's fun, it works. Now I do want to lay down the foundation for those who didn't see it as
That's
well.
fair.
So what this movie is the plot line of this movie. It is Aquaman is trying to live his life or whatever. Black Manta wants revenge, gets a hold of a cursed trident that is now warming the earth so that no life will ever exist.
Well, that's not the goal. He's just trying to melt the city full of monsters.
Yes, but then all people will die in the process.
That's a consequence, yeah.
He's trying to melt basically a necromancer king in a city that's like frozen in the Arctic. And that's it. He found a cursed trident. It made him go crazy. Now he's trying to melt the North Pole so that a necromancer king can come back, and to do that he kidnaps Aquaman's baby.
Yes, because he needs royal blood. Aquaman and his son are royal.
Yep.
And Aquaman has to team up with his brother, who was the villain of the first one, Ocean Master, and they must make amends. That's the whole movie.
That's the whole movie. Like, you think like, oh, that's Andrew and Diana giving the Coles notes. That's 100% of the plot to this movie. It's clean, it's simple, it moves at a good pace. It's all it needs.
It's all it needs. It's a flat 2 hours. I will say, I like that it's a flat 2 hours, but you can feel that it was longer in other cuts.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay, we're on the same. There are so many scenes that I'm like, this has been chopped to hell. This scene was 4 times longer when you filmed it,
yes.
for sure.
And
not
I'm
just
so
scenes,
glad that it's been chopped to hell.
It's been chopped to hell to its I think benefit.
I agree to its benefit.
I would like at least like 1 or 2 scenes where characters actually talk to each other. I feel like literally the only scene in this movie where I feel like, these 2 actors had a scene together is Aquaman and his dad talking about how like his son needs a brother, and that like family is like important, and then he cheers his dad for raising him alone. It's a really lovely scene. Tamora Morrison always is chef's kiss. Jason Momoa is really nice in that scene, and that might be the only scene that has like heart, whereas a lot of other scenes have like banter and fun.
I see what you're saying. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So. Yeah. The father is the only place where the heart exists.
Yes. So if I'm looking for heart always. I love heart, but I also love fun. So
I do agree that I think that there is another version of this movie that was filmed where Mera had heart and now is completely removed from the film.
I completely disagree. She never had lines.
You think you think that this hasn't been edited around?
No, I don't think there's any structural way. Most of this movie is Ocean Master and Aquaman. And she's just not there. And it's not like refilmed to cut her out. I think they knew from the beginning they didn't want Amber Heard in this a lot for various social reasons, but contractually they had no reason to fire her because she's done nothing wrong. So they were like, you get to be in like voiceover monologues as we describe the plot, and you'll get hurt in the first act, and then you're gone.
Interesting. Okay.
I don't think there's a version of this movie that has her in it.
Interesting. Okay. All right.
Sorry to shoot you down.
No, that's entirely fine, and you might be right. I got the impression that because I also felt like Nicole Kidman's character, the mother, I forget her name.
Atlanta, I believe.
Atlanta? Okay.
it's a shockingly close name to Atlanta.
Okay. So
Atlanta.
So Atlanta's character, I also felt like there was a bit missing with her, and I felt like her and Mera were probably had a few scenes. So there were a few moments where it was just like, oh no, Black Manta's attacking the city. And it just cuts to like Atlanta and Mera, who are kind of like already in a room together finishing up something else that we didn't see. And they're like, we'll stop it. And I'm like, okay, I feel like you just finished a second heart thing that didn't make it into this movie. And I'm fine it didn't, because let's keep this pace moving. But there were a few times where like Mera and Atlanta are in a room together already having completed or done or leaving a thing. And so I don't so much think it's like, oh, like there's a big Mera and Aquaman story missing. I think there is a bunch of Nicole Kidman scenes also missing because she had scenes with Amber Heard.
I can actually, maybe I could see that. I don't think Amber Heard was cut from any of the big plot lines, but if she does have stuff cut, I agree that it's probably her running Atlantis in Arthur's stead.
Yes.
So her and the mom, who was queen for so long, who would absolutely know how to rule this country. It's kind of like how all of Padme's scenes were cut from Revenge of the Sith, where she's starting the rebellion. There's like 3 scenes that were cut from that movie where she's like starting the revolution. They're like, nah, let's cut them all.
Right.
We'll just kill her.
We'll just do that instead.
That's easier.
Great.
That's what people want.
Sure.
But I can see that, because they definitely do come out of nowhere when the two of them come to stop Black Manta.
Yes, absolutely.
Just together in a fight scene. I'm like, the 2 queens of Atlantis are the first line of defense against invasion?
Yeah. And it also feels like they probably would be bonding over like Atlanta's he was away while I was running the kingdom, and like they have parallels there. So it feels like that's gone, but not missing. Where I'm just like the pace is breezy. Like even things where it's like they get to this underwater pirate kingdom. It's pirates, but they're fish people. So it's aquatic pirates. And they get to this kingdom, and it's like, let's try to talk it out. Talking it out didn't work. Let's punch it out. That scene's over. And I'm like, awesome.
We went,
awesome.
We saw, we left.
That was all we needed. We had to go here for reason B. Reason B was solved on a plot point C. Done.
I will say it is clunky, though. Like, there are... I cannot stand how much exposition through monologue happens in this movie. It's really boring when they decide to get to that point. It does, shorten your movie up. Yeah. But, Randall Park does this big monologue about, Black Manta somehow knows where the fuel supplies are being held, and he, goes through all of it. Aquaman has 2 long monologues about, this is what my life's like now. Nicole Kidman, Ocean Master has a big, let me tell you about the necrotic city we're trying to stop. And it's so many montage monologues, and it does shorten it up, but I'm just like, this is pretty boring.
Yeah, but you know what? I prefer this version of boring, where it's They are feeding us the boring in as small a tablet, and they're feeding it as quickly as possible.
This boring tablet could be big, or this boring tablet could be small.
Yeah, it could be a big suppository, or
no.
or it could be a little pill that we're just gonna feed to you. And it really feels like it's like we got Randall Park, and he's charming. Whereas like when you compare it to the first Aquaman, it's like there's 7 kingdoms. The 6th being the Brinies was the one that fell to the east.
We always clapped on the Brinies.
It's the dumbest word, and it's so stupid. And be like, and then there's the fish people who on the west meridian north of the 64th were the ones who found the boat people. Whereas this one's just Randall Park being like, I don't know why Black Manta knows what he knows, but here we go, baby. That's fun, and it's quick, and it's dumb, but it works.
I will say the Randall Park stuff is like, he's the best addition to the cast by far. Because even though Jason Momoa is very funny, there is just like a different kind of comedy that Randall Park brings to this. Like more Paul Rudd-esque. And it's just like, oh, it's good that there's a comedic element on both the villain and heroic side.
Yeah.
So I'm not like, oh, off to the volcano lair where we're just going to be serious. Instead, we get to go to the volcano lair. And Black Manta gets to be... We were talking about how, like, over the top this volcano lair is, but Black Manta's a stone cold badass in this movie.
Yes, I agree.
Which seems impossible when you're like, we're in our swimsuits at the volcano lair.
Yeah.
But it is wildly impressive how cool they make him. That black trident and the green eyes and, like, Yahya Mateen's just, like, intensity.
Yahya drips badass cool.
He does,
I fully agree. I do want to just backtrack real quick to Randall Park, who I think like could sell a vacuum to an astronaut. Like the man sells the shit out of anything. Like
did you just make that saying?
Yeah, I did. But like this man sells the shit out of everything. There is no scenario in which Randall Park cannot deliver exposition in a charming way. He would be in consideration for the special consideration Oscar that I've mentioned before of actors who can do ridiculous exposition in ways that you believe it. Randall Park is that man. If I
recall, the other nominee is Ludacris from the Fast movies.
Correct.
So we have 2 nominees.
We have 2 nominees so far.
Entertaining exposition.
Yeah. The woman who plays Ramsey in the Fast movies are also up there as well.
I mean, they get a co-nomination. Yeah, like if one of them wins,
for
they
the
both
franchise,
win.
they win.
Yeah,
It's a co-win. It's a co-win.
I actually really hope we find 5 nominees for best entertaining exposition.
I think we definitely can. If we really thought, if we locked in, yes.
If we go through our list of movies we've seen, we could find 5 really good noms.
The other Randall Park thing that I want to mention is the fact that this has happened a couple of times now. The device of telling clunky narrative through voice diaries, which we've mentioned before is a very video game thing. And at some point in the past 5 years, movies were like, thank you, video games, yoink, and have just taken that to be like, how do we deliver exposition in a bite-sized chunk? I know, someone's keeping a voice diary. And
he's keeping it, like, secret on a cassette tape?
Yeah.
And that's not part of it. It felt like it was going to be like, oh, my secret cassettes that, like, Black Manta can't hack them or steal them because they're not digital. But it was just like, no, we're not even going to draw attention to the fact that it's a cassette voice recorder.
That's just how he does it.
It's just how he does it.
That's just what he's into.
He's a modern old school man. Which actually makes sense because when he has to retrofit all the stuff they find is like old.
It's all old stuff. Yeah,
it's all old stuff that runs on like fuel that's way too bad for the environment.
Just this retro futurism type of vibe. It's really cool. But I backtracked to Randall Park. We were saying, yes, Yahya, an absolute badass.
Absolute badass. He also might, like, acting-wise, look-wise, like, I agree. He looks better this time, his outfit. But, like, acting-wise, such a badass, so intense. I'm scared of him, even though it's a PG-rated movie. And I'm like, it's going to be fine, but I think he might stab that baby. I think the baby might, if not die, get stabbed at least. I don't know what's going to happen. He also benefits from, I mentioned several times off the top that the land looks way better than the water, and he only has like 1 underwater fight scene, and then the rest of the time he's on land because he's not a water breather.
Yeah.
So like almost 100% of the time he gets to look much better than the rest of the movie and have better fight scenes because all the fights on land are so much better than the fights underwater.
Oh, yeah. Well, the fights underwater are nothing. It's bland CGI fests, and the underwater stuff doesn't look good.
It doesn't look good. It's the weirdest level of not looking good because, like, they clearly worked so hard on it, and every shot is so full of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like they were like, yeah, we put them in a green screen, and then we were like, we'll put, like, a little bit of water in the back. And like, no, we built a full world. All the plants are different. All the characters in the back are different. They fall through fish markets, as you said. They go to the pirate kingdom. Every shot is so full of stuff that I never know where to look, and also none of it looks particularly good.
Yeah. Yeah. It is kind of the opposite problem of a lot of other things we've talked about where it's like, oh, there wasn't enough time or the project was rushed. At no point, I feel like the CGI of this movie can really be summed up by the sentence, it's really hard. And like that's what I feel like I'm feeling from the visual effects team while I'm watching this, where it's just like, it's not, oh, we ran out of budget, we ran out of time, people were overworked. I'm just looking at it, it's just like, yeah, this is just really fucking hard. It's hard to make hair look right underwater. All the costumes, the neck doesn't match right with the face that was composited on this CGI character. It's a real face and a CGI character and then a crab man and you're underwater and the hair's fucking nuts. And this is all really hard. It's too hard and we shouldn't have done it. This is really hard to do.
You should have written less scenes underwater, but you saw Avatar 2 and you thought things could look really good. But we're not Avatar 2, you guys.
We can't do it. It turns out it's really hard.
Really hard. And honestly, personally, from Diana, I think I owe Avatar 2 an apology. Because, like, you know, that movie I think we gave like a middling to, but I didn't really factor in how hard water is.
It's hard.
It's hard. It's really hard. But you're right, they didn't run out of time because this movie got pushed back like a year.
Yeah.
So I think it was supposed to come out last Christmas, and they'd already filmed it. So they've had tons of time to work on the CG. But I will say I also feel like no matter what, they're working at a detriment. Because I will say when it comes to CG, what usually makes CG feel like it's bad is when something is weightless and doesn't have any heft to it. And like it's like when you move through an environment and you don't have any gravity or you're not affecting anything. That's when CG looks bad. But when you're CGing something underwater, it's supposed to feel weightless.
Yeah.
So I think no matter what, it's not going to feel good.
Yeah, I agree.
It's like we're going to be like, oh, look, Aquaman's weightless. That's bad because that's how we know CG's bad.
Yeah. And
so your brain will never think this looks good.
And I think also it's just like nothing has impact in the same way where it's like, what happens when you get hit underwater? When you get hit underwater, you get pushed backwards until you stop being pushed backwards.
There's might hit a rock sometimes?
Yeah, sometimes you hit a rock, but sometimes you just kind of float gently to a stop, which is the way water works. And that's fine, where like it's a viscous fluid. You move through it until it stops you from moving through it. But it's not as dramatic as air and gravity are, which are way more dramatic elements than water. So it's like Black Manta will blast Aquaman, or Aquaman gets hit with the sonar thing, and it's like, oh no, he shoots backwards, and now we're watching him drift backwards, and now he's still going backwards, but it's a little less fast than he was previously, and now he's kind of drifting to a standstill, and now he is the equivalent of standing up, and it's like, this is not dramatic. I don't care.
Yeah, especially because this is the point where if you are having a fight in water, usually the drama comes from, oh no, he's gonna run out of air.
Right.
Does not happen to Aquaman and Aquaman's friends.
Yeah.
Now, Black Manta, the villain, could run out of air.
Yes.
But none of the heroes can run out of air. Even like when that like rock is on Aquaman briefly and it's like, oh no, how's he gonna get out? I'm like, I think he breathes through like gills and he doesn't really need to expand his lungs. Like, I think he's fine. Like you don't want to get stuck there.
Yeah, he's fine until someone comes to get him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, there is so much stakes removed anytime they're underwater. And then the second you're on land, every time they got to land, I'd be like, oh, thank God, I love this stuff on land.
Yeah.
It's so much, even the CG, like the CG on land is good.
Yeah.
Like it feels like it's got weight and things are moving. But even better is when there's no CG. Because I will say, by leaps and bounds the best fight scene in this movie is like the two trident fight between Manta and Aquaman at the very end.
Yeah.
It's like powerful and it's hefty and the choreography is really good and it's so short and I was so sad.
And even when it uses visual effects, because there's a couple of like weird 3D camera moves that aren't normal or whatever.
It's a 3D movie, but we saw it in 2D.
Yeah. But like that, and there was a couple of ways that the camera moves where I'm like, it just switched to full digital or whatever, but it matched the choreography and it looked really good. And like the hair and clothing moved the way hair and clothing should through air, and it just looked really slick and good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that fight scene was great. I was like, oh no, the movie's over. We only got one good fight scene. But that fight scene was phenomenal. So.
Yeah, that fight scene, I agree, was really good. The other thing that I think that this movie does, which is a little bit different, and I kind of like about it, is that this movie is a sequel, obviously, to the first Aquaman film, and just does not bother with any new characters. And I love that.
Randall Park.
Randall Park. There's one, an added comedic character they have patched in. But the other thing that I find about it that I find really refreshing is just the fact that when we talked about Aquaman 1, one of our complaints was that there's too much shit. There's 9 kingdoms and a bunch of things and this and that, and it drones on and on and on. And this movie is like, what if the last one, but less and fewer people, and we zoned in on them? It's like, yes, that's what movies are. I like that a lot.
That's what movies are.
I like that it's a sequel that wasn't like, and now here's the new big bad. They're just like, the new big bad is kind of a ghost. It's basically Black Manta, whatever.
Yeah, he's the guy you met last time who didn't get enough to do and was super cool. Sorry about that. He's got a lot to do this time.
Now he's got a ghost in him. The new villain's technically the ghost, but it's also the same villain, whatever.
Yeah, we only have brought back people from Atlantis that you already knew. Dolph Lundgren, you met him.
Yeah.
This guy who Ocean Master cut his hand off, played by John Rhys Davies. I have no idea what character you are. You're a big crab.
He's the briny king.
Oh, those are the brinies.
Those are the brinies.
Oh, they're just crabs, though.
They're just crabs, yeah.
Why aren't they just called crabs?
I don't know, because it's all silly.
Because there's a volcano lair.
It's all silly.
It's all silly.
And John Rhys Davies just having so much fun doing the voice of this character, who I really enjoy.
Everyone is, like, for the most part, having a lot of fun. I will say that. Because even Patrick Wilson, who I do not think of as a comedic actor, I don't know if he's having fun, but he's bringing a lot of joy to me, the viewer.
I'm going to say this actually might be one of my big takeaways from this movie, is that I didn't know that Patrick Wilson got comedy. It's amazing. This dude always plays a dick, and a different version of a dick. He's either a creepy dick or an untrustworthy dick or like a prejudiced dick. He's always a kind of asshole.
Or he's in the Conjuring movies, which I haven't seen, but I assume aren't comedies.
Oh, okay.
Because they're horror films.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, like, I've never seen him play this. I don't know of him to ever play this. And he does a great job of playing the straight man and playing it in a way where he's still playing into the comedy. Like, the comedy isn't coming from the direction or the editing necessarily. It is coming from he's getting it. He's getting it and doing it right. When they're on land and he starts Naruto running, because he and then it's just him being like, I'm not on land a lot. I don't know how to run. And he's trying to be aerodynamic with his top half. And like Aquaman being like, no, you gotta pump your arms. And him just like this, and then doing a really stiff like Tom Cruise run.
Oh, it is like Tom Cruise.
It's this very robotic, mechanical run. Mm-hmm. It's so funny. And he sells that, and like every bit of it, he's funny.
He is funny, yeah. Early in this episode, you said nothing in this movie sticks to your ribs. And I would say him learning how to run is the part that stuck to my ribs. Because I will also give him credit for continuity. When they first break him out of jail and they have to run for the water, he also very subtly doesn't run without using his arms. But he's not drawing any attention to it yet.
Oh.
Because I even noticed it the first time he ran into the water, and it was like the scene before. So they're not in the jungle yet, they're on the beach. And like they run into the water very briefly, and I'm like, oh, he's not moving his arms. I'm like, I don't know if that's because he's weak from being in the thing, or if he just like, oh, does he not know how to run? And then they actually explicitly did the scene about it. I'm like,
wow.
You seeding that in the earlier scene so there'd be continuity of you not knowing how to run is very, very impressive.
All right, that's pretty good. That is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Dang. Dang.
So real happy with that. But yeah, him and Jason Momoa have a really nice back and forth, really great banter.
They're both having fun together. They feel like brothers.
They feel like brothers. They're bringing more than the script has to offer.
Yes.
Like scenes that like I actually don't even think work on paper, like a king builds bridges. It's like this is so quickly brought in that it's not funny to make a callback 30 seconds later. Like it doesn't work, but just the looks they give each other and the banter back and forth. I'm like, you are selling a script that doesn't work as great as you are making it.
Yes. Yeah. Because they're both having fun while doing it, and they know they're playing brothers really well. Yeah. That little bit of animosity, that little bit of like Orn being like, you didn't even want to be king?
He's so upset.
Like he's so upset about it. The way also Patrick Wilson plays that, like, so the moment where like Dolph Lundgren, the military advisor or whatever his character is like, I don't trust this guy. This guy was a dick in the last movie. Yada yada
This
yada.
guy plays a dick in every movie I see him in.
He's never trustworthy. He's catfishing you or something. Do not trust this dude. This dude is always either catfishing or gaslighting. That's the one thing this actor plays and does.
Or he's a henchman for a higher up villain.
Yeah, he's an American Burn Gorman type of an energy that he is bringing. But it is this moment when Dolph Lundgren is not sure he could trust him, is like hanging on the side of a cliff. And Patrick Wilson, as Orn like looks around the corner, is like, "Am I going to leave you? I'm a bit of a shit," and then kind of like fades into the background, but comes back to help him. I'm like, I love how he's playing this. I love this.
He had a bit of a Loki scampness to him for a few minutes.
He did, to the point where Aquaman calls him Loki at one point.
I was like, that was weird,
yeah.
coming out of nowhere.
Yeah. I feel like I'm like that might be a slight step too far in breaking the fourth wall to be like, we rewrote these characters to be Thor and Loki. And it's like, I get that you did, and I was having fun with it until you kind of hung too much of a lantern on it. I didn't really like that.
They really did. Yeah, like Thor 2, he has to like break Loki out of prison so that they can go fight the bad guy together.
They exactly rewrote these characters to be Thor and Loki.
Except I thought it was James Bond, but now it's Thor and Loki.
It's a James Bond movie.
It's many things.
But it's a Thor and Loki in a James Bond movie. But yeah, them drawing attention to it, I was like, that might be a hair too much, actually.
Just a tad too much.
Yeah.
All right, I apologize because we've already talked about Randall Park, but there was like...
Can never talk about him too much.
Apology rescinded. Because there is one thing I wanted to ask you, and I sincerely want your opinion on this because I'm torn on it. How did you feel about Randall Park's character calling Black Manta David the whole movie?
I think I actually also have a note about this.
Oh, you do?
Yes, because I think the movie thinks it's being clever, but it's a little clunky and weird because no one calls Aquaman. He's Arthur the entire movie as well.
That's fair.
So no one ever uses anyone's superhero titles, which I think is a thing, a kind of a dated thing. Like, not calling anyone by their superhero name feels like a very 90s comic book movie thing to do, to be like, we're trying to be kind of grounded and real, and we need to find, like, a reason that someone gives them their cool name.
Yeah, the X-Men have all black uniforms, and no one calls me Wolverine. I'm Logan.
Yeah, it feels like a little bit of, like, an Evanescence era of superhero movies. And for a movie that's so comic booky and loud and proudly comic booky, them being Arthur and David really doesn't hit. It should be Aquaman and Black Manta. So I think that they're being clever and moody when really it just is like a little dated, and also Black Manta's a way cooler name, and you can't have your henchman call you David.
That's kind of where I'm stuck at, because like I don't think you would call Aquaman. It's like, it's not a name.
But he's King Arthur. It's powerful.
King or Arthur, yeah. But like you can just call someone Manta, and that feels like a name, even if you're not going to call him Black Manta.
Yeah, Manta.
Like, just Manta for short. Or what the heroes call him, which is Kane, his last name. A way cooler name than David.
Yeah.
So every time Randall Park, who's like, I'm really scared of this guy, but I got to work for him because he might kill me, is like, hey, David?
David?
And I'm like, please call him Kane or Manta.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel like you're very scared of him when you're on a first name basis.
I agree. And David, close your door before you get weird.
Okay, yeah.
The open door policy of like, hey, I'm David. Just come on by.
Anytime.
If you have concerns about the workplace, just come see me. I'm David. My door is open.
I'm a cool boss.
I'm the cool boss. And then like in his office, David is looking in the mirror and being like, and possessed by a ghost. And it's like, I'm the Necro King. I'll be the one who destroys this globe and eats the bones. The bones are all I want to eat. And then Randall Park comes around the corner and is like, David? And then David just pushes a button and his goddamn Star Trek door closes super fucking slowly and awkwardly. It's like, close the door, David.
And he also got mad at Randall Park for like snooping, and it's like, your door is open, and he is bringing you information.
Come on, David.
Stop being obsessed. Stop being possessed by an evil necromancer with your door open, David.
Yes.
But yeah, okay. I'm glad we both latched on to the fact that he's the only one who calls him David, because Aquaman calls him Kane.
Right.
And every now and then he's called Black Manta, but not very often.
I don't think they call him Black Manta at all, actually.
Do you think
I was trying to track it. If it did come up, it passed by me because I was finding it so weird that he was either David or Kane or David Kane.
Or David Kane.
And I was like, when are they going to say Black Manta? And I don't recall them doing it ever, because even when he suits up, they call it his power suit, and they're like, where's his power suit? What happened to his power suit? And then when he puts on the helmet, they're like, he has the helmet, but he's not wearing his power suit, David. And they never say like, oh shit, he's in his Black Manta suit, or it's the Manta helmet. They always just call it the power suit from David Kane. And
David Kane.
By David
Sounds
Kane.
like a fashion designer.
Yeah.
Power Suit
by David Kane.
It also sounds like his supervillain name is Power Suit.
Yeah. It does. So
oh no, Power Suit's here.
I found that to be a very strange choice for this movie.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Randall Park like sells it. So not even like, but so to the point, but he also said it so many times. Like, or even could have just called him like boss.
Boss would have worked.
Boss would have been great. Hey, boss, I got those readings about the stuff.
Yep. I got more of the stuff readings.
Yeah.
So I agree. I found it to be strange. Okay. And I also found the Arthur thing to be a little bit strange, because I get that he wouldn't be called Aquaman when everyone's an Aquaman. That doesn't really make sense. But like, you would think that Manta and his crew would call him Aquaman.
I thought he did call him Aquaman.
Really?
I thought he said, I'm going to kill Aquaman and all of his family.
Ooh, maybe he did.
I think he monologued with the word Aquaman.
Okay. Because there was a lot of Arthur talk, and one thing that I found, I was like, this falls flat, and I don't get it. You have all of the rhythms of a joke, but it's not a joke, and I just don't get it. Is the ending of this movie, with the UN press conference of like, Atlantis has now revealed itself to the world. I get that. All right. We all need to work together. Global unity. I get that. And then it ends with him grabbing the mic and doing the I am Iron Man press conference and saying I am Aquaman and mic dropping. And I'm like, how is that a joke?
Yeah.
Because it's not drama. It's a joke. It has all of the implications of a joke. It's said like it is a joke. But what's the joke?
I think the joke is that the final two DCEU movies have ended with the worst jokes of all time. The Flash's tooth dropping out was terrible at the end of Flash, which was
I don't even remember that.
That's how bad that joke was, and that's how the movie ended.
Okay.
But yeah, I totally agree. I didn't know what was happening, because like in Iron Man, when he's like, I am Iron Man, you didn't know he was Iron. He wouldn't admit to being Iron Man until that moment.
Yeah.
But like,
I thought the world knows who Aquaman is.
Even if they don't, there hasn't been like a pushback on him not liking the name Aquaman. Like, it's not like his brother's been calling him Aquaman all movie and he's like, stop it, I don't like being called Aquaman or something.
Yeah.
They built up to something that I just do not understand either. I don't get it.
I can't comprehend it.
No. It's like, he also like, maybe he's just like, I'm very serious king, but I'm also still really fun, mic drop. I found a balance as a king and as Arthur.
But there's maybe as a character beat, I understand like implying or wanting to do that, but what's the joke?
I don't know, babe. I just don't know.
Is it that he has seen Iron Man? Is it that the filmmakers don't care anymore? Is it that it's just like, hey, we made this film and we've also seen Iron Man? It's just a reference, but if you're gonna break the fourth wall, what is it a reference? Why is it a reference?
It might be funny to think about it this way. The reference in the final DCEU movie is to the first MCU movie.
And there is a poetry to that to a certain degree.
We only just got the MCU. Sorry. We've seen the first one.
It's
Iron Man.
Yeah.
So we can reference that. And I guess maybe we've seen Thor the Dark World because...
Yeah, we basically did that.
We basically did that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very weird to end the DCEU with an MCU reference.
With an MCU reference that doesn't land.
It doesn't land. It doesn't even work. I mean, I guess that's also how Endgame ends. Spoiler for Endgame.
Right.
But like not in the same way.
No, not in the same
press conference way.
And it's like, yeah, the press conference way is that's the Iron Man 1 ending. I don't get it.
I don't get it either.
I'm so frustrated because like it's not even that bad. It's not that bad. It's not like, oh, that scene stinks. Just as a comedian and as a person who likes things to make sense, if it fails, I want to know why it fails. If it succeeds, I want to know why it succeeds. But this is just something where I'm like, I don't understand any part of the process that led to this being filmed and shown to me. I don't what did James Wan and Jason Momoa say to one another that they were like, oh yeah, that's good, I get it.
This is how we'll end Aquaman's story.
How did they get it? What was to get?
And I think what also is frustrating, because I get the frustration of like, this didn't land, is that I can't think of a single other moment in the entire movie where I was like, what are they trying to say?
Yeah. What's the joke?
What is she proposing? Like, so only in the very last moments of the DCEU is this movie like, this isn't going to work. And then the other like 95% of the movie, I'm like, I know exactly what joke you're going for. And even if it doesn't land, I understood what every other joke was.
Yeah.
And most of them landed, to be totally honest.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the comedy in this movie works.
Yeah.
Like we were saying a moment ago, one of my highlights is that I didn't know Patrick Wilson was a talented comedic actor. The comedy in this movie works to the point that it highlighted a new comedic actor to me.
Mm-hmm. But I guess maybe because Patrick Wilson wasn't there. He was off eating a cockroach.
Yeah.
With a slightly better laugh.
A slightly better laugh. Mm-hmm. Not the best, but a slightly better. Mm-hmm. One that's adequate for a post-credit or something like that.
It is. Since we're at the end, I do have to mention, it does feel like, in a way, this is the end of the DCEU, because as much as like they stopped Black Manta, they didn't reverse the climate change, and the world is fucked.
The world's completely fucking ruined.
If all of the ice caps have melted and all of these natural disasters are happening, I don't care if Superman and Wonder Woman are still around. Like, you gotta get the Flash to go reverse time again.
Yes.
The Earth is messed.
Yeah. The scale of this got a little out of hand.
A little bit out of hand.
I think it's like,
Millions died.
Did they say 5 months or a year?
5 months.
So for 5 months, it's been nothing but global catastrophes, and only Aquaman's on it.
Yeah.
Like, this is you gotta call in the rest, my dude.
You gotta call in the rest, but also, like, there's no easy reversal of this.
Yeah.
This just keeps getting worse.
Yeah.
We're not gonna suddenly be like, oh, cool, fish people exist. That's not going to change humanity. I'm sorry. So this does feel like how this world ends.
Yeah.
No Thanos invasion, just like, oh no, we fucked the planet.
Yeah. Oops.
Sorry.
Oops. I do like how hard this movie goes on climate change is real, get your shit together. I do like that.
But not in a preachy way, but in a way that I'm like, yeah, fair. Yeah, absolutely.
In a way where it's just very normal and factual. In a way where it's just like, you know how that's like a thing that we're all concerned about and is a very legitimate problem that's going to kind of fuck us all pretty slowly. And it's like, yeah, I do. It's like, here we go. That's a fact that we all need to get on board with. And it's not trying to teach us the fact. It just is the fact.
Yeah, they're past the point of teaching you about climate change and just at the point of being like, stop it.
Yeah.
We all know it's real.
It almost feels like if a movie tried to teach us what gravity was at the beginning of a movie. And this, like, it's just like, no, gravity exists in this film world as it does in the real world. And I like that. And I'm sure some people will be pissed by that, but I like how hard it goes on them.
Yeah, I like the matter-of-fact way Nicole Kidman has this line about, like, we were using this kind of fuel and it was destroying the world. So, like, we stopped.
We stopped, obviously.
That's what you do.
Yeah.
Straight down the camera.
And the people who were using it the most that we told to stop thought we wanted them to stop because we're jealous and because we don't like how powerful they are, and they are sick on the power of this destructive force.
And they're the bad guys of this movie, and we've locked them up.
Yeah.
And maybe we should do that.
Yeah. So there's that. So I liked that.
I like that lesson as well.
Yeah. I like that they went hard. Well, I'm feeling pretty good about Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. How you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good. Yeah, I've said most of my points. Yeah, I had a few more things about, like, just the faces looked bad underwater. But we'd already talked about how things looked bad underwater.
The faces did look bad
I was
underwater.
really worried about Nicole Kidman, actually.
Yeah.
Because all of her first couple of scenes were underwater, and I was like, oh God, did you get really bad plastic surgery, Nicole Kidman? And there's also, like, 3D conversion happening, so it's a really dark, and she looks weird. And then she had one scene on land, and she looked totally normal. I'm like, oh, thank God, Nicole Kidman, your face. I'm really happy you have a normal face again.
I also thought the same thing, because it's like Nicole Kidman, as many actresses of her age, has had some work done, but yeah, those underwater scenes, I was like, oh no.
They messed it up somehow.
And then, like, as soon as she was above on land, I'm like, okay, all right, now she's still human actress Nicole Kidman and not whatever this underwater effect is. Oh my God.
I would be very upset if I didn't have any land scenes in this movie and I was Nicole Kidman.
Ooh, boy. Oh, boy. Well, let's go into the close. Let's ask the final question of what would you change? So now that we've discussed everything we've discussed, what would you change about this if you could change anything? Before we do ask that final question, we will remind you, as we do every week, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podcast Addict, wherever you get your podcasts.
Wherever you get your podcast, you can probably leave us a 5-star rating. You might be able to leave us a review. That would be super, super great. This episode is coming out on Christmas Day. It'd be a lovely little present for your two of your favorite podcasters, perhaps.
We would love that.
We are accepting gifts.
Yeah, we're accepting gifts right now in the form of free ones of ratings and reviews, and we are accepting monetary gifts as well in the form of our Patreon channel.
We're very giving in what we will accept.
We're giving and receiving over on our Patreon page because we are giving and receiving on the Patreon page.
On the Patreon page, we're giving and receiving.
You do get cool exclusives. So every month on the Patreon, if you are at the $10 hero level, you get an exclusive bonus episode of this podcast every single month. And when you sign up at that level, you get immediate access to the whole back catalog. So we are talking hundreds, I believe, of episodes.
Many.
That are just waiting for you. This month, we did Jingle All the Way, which is a very fun and silly time.
It was quite a banger, yeah. But you get access to all the old episodes. They're full-length episodes on movies or TV shows we will never cover on the regular podcast, ad-free. It's a really good time if you need more of us in your life. Or if there's just like, why have they never covered that? We might have done it on the Patreon.
We might have done it on the Patreon. So head over to patreon.com/from. Oh, and also at the $3 level, you can also get these episodes early and ad-free. So don't forget about that.
Don't forget about that. $3 patrons are probably listening to this right now earlier than you. So
boom, boom, boom.
Earlier than you heard this.
Yes.
Time is hard.
Time is difficult. So head on over to patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. That is patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. And now let's go in for the close. Let's ask the final question of what would you change? Diana, what would you change?
Quick changes. I would like a little bit more heart. The comedy is very good, but as I said, there is like just kind of one scene between Aquaman and his dad that I think had like heart and was nice, and I do kind of need that every now and then. I feel like there's a couple scenes with Patrick Wilson and Momoa that are supposed to feel like they have heart, but they never quite get to like, I'm like, oh, I'm moved. So I would like to like feel a little bit more. But my biggest change is going to be apologies to the animators who worked so hard. Most of this movie is going to be set on land. I think you could have like, because when they go to the pirate place, Orm even says land dwellers and fish alike come to this pirate place. I'm like, I don't see any land dwellers. Maybe we could be on land for this. Like, if you know where David Kane, a human, is, that can be a land scene. trying to track him down. You don't have to be underwater. Like, I just think all the underwater stuff looks so bad. I can't stop looking at the hair. I missed so many lines of dialogue because I'm just looking at people's hair floating. And I'm like, what happened to the ponytails from the first movie?
Yeah.
So many people had ponytails in the first movie. Willem Dafoe, Aquaman, hair was pulled back, easier to watch a scene.
Yeah.
So I'm really just going to put most of this movie on land with apologies to Aquaman. There can be water around. Like, the first fight is him fighting pirates on a ship on the water.
Yeah.
The water's right there. It's right there. So yeah, I just couldn't stand anything underwater. So I think if this movie was mostly on land, it would like really slap. It might be higher than a fine. So it's going to be my biggest change. It's not like fun, but it's also like fun because it would look good. Andrew, what would you change?
Respect the hell out of that. Yeah, I agree that more of it needs to be on land. The underwater stuff just doesn't look as good. Just the CGI, it's really hard.
It's really hard.
It's really hard.
I actually don't think, as we've said, I don't think you did a bad job, animators. It's really hard, and weightless will never look good unless you're in space.
Yep, and hair looks stupid.
And hair always
looks stupid. It looks stupid in The Little Mermaid. The Na'vi look different for a reason in Avatar. It makes it easier. So yeah, just hair looks stupid underwater.
Yeah. Nolan purposefully put Elliot Page's hair in a bun in the Inception scene that doesn't have gravity because he was like, I don't want to figure out how to do hair and no gravity.
Ah, okay.
Because hair sucks.
Hair sucks.
So hair sucks.
Hair sucks and looks dumb. So I'm agreeing with you. I love that. My big change is that so David Kane, aka Black Manta,
David,
as we all call him, who is this awesome badass played by Yaya, who's giving this like just smoldering, smoking, powerful, cool performance.
Smoldering's the word.
A lot of smoldering looks and just anger in the eyes, and it's just like, hell yeah, dude. And he is the villain because he accidentally picked up a trident he wasn't even trying to find. And that really kind of bummed me out for a lot of the movie, that the movie starts with like the voiceover from him, or I think it was voiceover, but like he's explaining it, made him in Randall Park, being like, I'm looking for things to fix my laser helmet. My laser helmet's broken, and I'm scouring the globe for scrap parts for my laser helmet. Hey, what's this stick? And then that's the inciting incident. And it's like, that's kind of lame that you weren't looking for the Black Trident, that you didn't know of the myth, that you didn't know the power it contained, that you were just like, I'm actually kind of looking for an Atlantean Radio Shack. And I stumbled over some trash. And I'm actually kind of a trash idiot who found a piece of garbage. And now I'm haunted by a ghost. And then after that, Yaya's playing it as a smoldering badass and doing phenomenal. But as an inciting incident, it's just such a limp, pathetic, inciting incident for our villain to just trip over ghost trash.
That is a great point. Yeah, just looking for trash maybe does explain why Randall Park just calls him David.
Yeah, that they're just spending
he's just a guy who hired me to find some trash.
They go around looking for Atlantean flotsam and jetsam. That's all that they do.
Yeah, because they're not looking for Atlantis.
No.
They're like, we think there's one ship here that maybe we can fix his helmet with.
We're looking for some old Atlantean derelict trash.
That's a great change. Yeah, I hadn't thought about it, but now that you pointed out, yeah, he accidentally became a very good villain, but he shouldn't have.
He shouldn't have. The inciting incident for him is bad. And it would be way better if the movie just started and it really is like a 2-line change of him being like, I have been, like, my eye laser isn't going to do it. I tried with eye laser and it's not going to do it. And I've been scouring the globe for stories of something that can defeat Atlantis, and I found this myth, and now I'm hunting for the thing, and here we go. Just that alone, to be like, to even have the wherewithal and the sense of self to be like, apparently, I have learned from the events of the last movie that I have learned that putting a laser helmet on your head is not enough to defeat Aquaman. But he starts this movie, and his plan is the exact same plan he had in the first movie, which is, what if a gun was my face? And that's his only idea. And it's super stupid.
It is super stupid. And it's so easy to, like, as you already just rewrote it, but, like, he also fought Aquaman before Aquaman had the cool trident that he got at the end of Aquaman 1.
Yeah.
So now if he was just like, now he's got a trident, so I'm going to need a magic trident.
Yes, I know that there's better weapons out there.
I know that there's, like, a negative version of his trident out there.
Yeah.
And then I could maybe defeat him, because I'll have eye lasers.
Yep.
And a trident.
Yeah, I'm going to keep the eye lasers.
I still want the eye lasers. They're load bearing.
That's my thing, but it's not enough. Yeah, just make him a little more competent. And then when he's a smoldering badass and like a ghost is in him and the ghost is like, I want to kill Aquaman. I'm possessing someone who wants to kill Aquaman. We're powered by hate. And if the vessel was more competent to begin with, I would like the smoldering even more.
I love that. Yeah, I'm definitely cool with making Black Manta more badass the whole time, even though I already found him pretty badass. But I get what you're saying. That's not the coolest story.
Yeah, he's badass because Yaya's badass. Yeah. Well, that is going to do it for this week for Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Thank you very much for listening. Next week, we are going to be back, and we're going to be talking about What If Season 2.
They're back, baby. They're from different places.
What if the show was back? So we're going to be talking about that next week on the podcast. In the meantime, if you want to get a hold of us, you can find me on Instagram at Ivimey, Ivimey.
You can find me on Instagram and Threads at Pics of Diana. You can find me on Tumblr at Words of Diana. A couple of you have followed me and talked to me on Tumblr lately, and that's been really fun for me.
Shout out to Tumblr.
I'm always keep bringing it back.
You're bringing it back, baby. And if you want to find more of both of us, we're most places at From Superheroes, and you can visit FromSuperheroes.com to check out all of our other podcasts, web series, and everything that we offer. And we'll talk to y'all next week.
Bye.